All right, everyone, welcome to today's session. So in yesterday's session, we covered UC prep, and these were the topics we did. What type of courses to take in high school for UCs, the A to G requirements, factors that UCs consider, the UC top 9% myth, how to calculate UC GPA, extracurriculars, and standardized testing in the context of UCs. So if you weren't able to make it yesterday, we recorded the session and we're going to upload it to our YouTube channel sometime soon. So be sure to check that out if you couldn't attend. In today's session, we are going to go over counseling and a few other topics. All right, so first of all, let's dive into standardized testing. So yesterday we discussed standardized testing in the context of UCs, that they're test blind and they don't accept your ACT or SAT score anymore. Today we're going to discuss it a bit more in general. So the PSAT, SAT, SAT are topics, and the pandemic situation. Now this is going to be in regard to other colleges and not UCs, the test prep schedule and the National Merit Scholarship Program. All right, so university response to SAT, ACT test during pandemic. So most universities recognize the challenges faced due to the COVID-19 pandemic and decided not to require students to report their test scores. So this is school specific, meaning that you should go to the school's website and check. Now, some schools still might require your SAT or ACT test, so that's why you should go to their website and search. But most of them won't. Now, the schools that have done this response are either test optional or test blind. So test optional means that they will accept your test scores, but you're not required to submit them. And no student is harmed in the application process if they don't wish to share their scores. All right, so let's dive into the standardized testing prep schedule. So in ninth grade, you should self-study using test prep books and do some practice tests, like get a general feel for the test. This is also the time where you should decide which test is good for you, the SAT or the ACT. Now, the ACT is a bit faster paced and the SAT is a bit slower paced, but it has harder problems. The ACT has easier problems. So during ninth grade, you should take a few practice tests from each test, like the ACT and the SAT, just to get a feel of which test is better for you. And yeah, you should practice for the PSAT too. Now, the PSAT is like a shortened version of the SAT. And the questions are mostly similar, even the types are similar. So if you practice for the SAT, you should be good in ninth grade. So you'll have to practice for the PSAT specifically in 10th or 11th grade. Okay, so during the summer of 10th grade, it's recommended that you take SAT or ACT test prep. Now this is because you don't want to take the SAT during your 11th grade year, because you're going to have a lot of APs and course load. So the best thing to do is to take the SAT like just the September before your junior year begins. So that's when most people take it. So you might want to sign up for the SAT in advance on that date, because the slots fill in really quick. And if you're, say, living in California, then they fill up super quick. So you might have to go to Nevada or something to take the test. So you should try to book your spot within a few hours of the PSAT registration opening. So in 10th grade, you can also take the PSAT 10. Now this won't enter you into the National Merit Scholarship Program, but it's there for practice. So yes, you should go ahead and take some PSAT practice tests, but then don't focus on the PSAT too much now. It's just for practice. Okay, so now in 11th grade, you take the SAT until you get the score you want. Now we recommend 3 tries maximum. Now you can theoretically take the SAT as many times as you want, as long as you show improvement in your scores. We recommend to take it a maximum of 3 times. Taking it more times than that can be a waste of time, money, and energy. It would be best to focus on other parts of your application, like your college essays and your extracurriculars at this point. All right, so lastly, during 12th grade, you can also take the SAT during 12th grade, but it's better to finish it off during 11th grade. And the PSAT you can only take it during 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. Now, you can take the PSAT 9, but then that technically won't enter you into the National Merit Scholarship Program, as well as the PSAT 10. These 2 PSATs won't enter you into that program. So the only important PSAT is the 11th grade PSAT. Now, you can also take your SAT during 11th grade, like say halfway into 11th grade or 3/4 into 11th grade, but it's recommended to take it just before 11th grade. So you won't have to worry about that along with your coursework. All right, so that's it for this section.
All right, so now I'll go over what exactly the National Merit Scholarship Program is. which I'll be referring to as NMSC. The National Merit Scholarship Program is a competition that is tied to your PSAT score. This competition, as Arian said, is for juniors only and can lead to scholarship prizes. When juniors first take the PSAT, the top 50,000 scores in the country are chosen for the program. Normal PSAT scores are out of 1,520 points. However, for the National Merit Scholarship competition, scores are calculated differently, where each subsection score of the test is added together and multiplied by 2. Each state has a cutoff score which differs every year. And I put a link here of maybe Arian can show it for the cutoff scores for the class of 2023, the most recent PSAT. These are estimations, but as you can see, like California has higher cutoff scores compared to other states, meaning that students in California have to have a harder competition to qualify into the next round. So yeah, as you can see there. And then go back. Okay, so then after the 50,000 students are chosen, they go through 4 rounds of elimination until there are only 7,500 left. The original test score is used to eliminate students throughout the 4 rounds, meaning you do not have to take 4 different tests. The farther the student advances, the higher prize money that they can win. So then we'll move on. All right, so now our next topic for this session is counseling. In this section, we'll go over why you should hire a counselor, what are the types of counselors, and the types of services these counselors may provide. Let's start off. Let's start off with why you should hire a counselor. Counselors are there to guide students on how to better their college applications and find schools that best suit them. Some major examples of how college counselors can be helpful would be 1, helping students find majors of interest. This is important since what you're interested in majoring is crucial when deciding which schools to apply to. Some schools are better suited for certain majors or fields than others. 2, help build and organize college lists. College lists are typically organized by the categories of safety, target, and reach, with safety schools being schools that you know you can get into, and reach being the schools that are most difficult to get into. Of course, what defines a school as a safety versus a reach is subjective for each student. Thus, counselors, by collecting information about your grades and extracurriculars, can help define these categories so that you know which schools you can get into. This makes a difference since it can increase your chances of getting into a school that best fits you. 3, reviewing college applications and essays. College essays allow admissions officers to get to know the student better apart from their academics. Counselors can help you brainstorm ideas for essay prompts, with some companies even offering essay revision services. 4, recommend school courses and extracurriculars. Apart from essays, academics play a role in college admissions. If your counselor is local and knows the schools near you, they may be able to help advise you on which courses you should take. They can find the balance between a 2 week of a course load and a very stressful course load. Likewise, they can also advise you with which clubs you can join and even recommend outside of school internships in order to boost your application. Then, next slide. Counselors can come in many shapes. First off, they're independent counselors that are not part of any larger company or agency. This link, it's on the slide, takes you to a website called the Independent Educational Consultants Association, which is a not-for-profit international professional association representing experienced independent educational consultants. By clicking the link, you can search for counselors by inputting your zip code. I believe, if you go back to that original page that you were on, and then scroll down, there'll be like a red button. That one, yeah. So if you click that and then put in your information, this website can find independent counselors near you, like if you put in your zip code. But of course, the IECA is not the only way you can find independent counselors. You can just go on the internet and search those up as well. So back to the presentation. Apart from independent counselors, counseling companies are also available, which employs many counselors and essay editors. While you may not receive the same attention as independent counselors, these companies can offer more services. Finally, there are school counselors. These counselors work for your school, and they're there to offer advice to students about what courses to take and general college information. Since they work for your school, they will have expert knowledge on which courses to take to better your application. And then we'll go on to Preet now.
Okay. So to add on to what Karthik said, so there are different types of counselor services as well. So all these separate services offer different types of, I would say, like counseling opinions. So the most common and the most flexible ones would be the ones that are on demand, and these are paid hourly, and these are handled by single person counselors. So they're paid on a hourly schedule, and it's a flexible schedule as well. And so in this service, it would pretty much be like a one-on-one session where you can have a time where both of them agree on, and they would meet together to talk about your college, like give consulting advice about your college prep. And another service would be editing school-related stuff, so the essay editing service. And essentially, this service only provides review on your essay. And so, for example, if you're a really good like writer, then I think this would be the best one for you, because then you can just really go into your essay and then just do a few tweaks and minor changes, and then you'd be good to go. Now, if you're not that great of a writer and you don't know what to write about, but with the total academic package, because essentially what this is, it's a one-on-one consulting review throughout high school. So it starts from 9th grade and goes all the way to senior year. You can go over your courses, your homework assignments, and then also prepare for college. They help you with like checkpoints and find out exactly what's going on. So I think this would be a good one if you don't know exactly where to start from. And the final service would be application coaching. And this is basically aimed for rising seniors. And it basically covers like majors in college and a college list, a college search list, what you would do. And what this would do is throughout like the summer of like senior year for a high schooler, they would help decide which colleges are right for you and which majors you would want to go into or pursue for each college. And another thing they would help you with is interviews. So talking more about interviews, essentially a way to know the student's application. So generally it's just students know the applications, and the only way for admission officers to understand you and your personality is through your essays. So now sometimes what they would do is they would provide interviews. This could be either the admission officers themselves or the college alumni. And what they would do is they would have a one-on-one interview with you, and they would ask you questions, talk about college campus, college life, why you chose the college, and ask you a bunch of questions to know your personality, what type of person you are, not like from your essays, but like to know you personally, and basically find out if you're a good fit for the college. And so essentially what these application coaching services do is they provide you with the right tips and for the college interviews. And these counselors also help you prepare like very well if you want to do like public speaking. For example, you would like they would prepare you like you need to do this and this, and you need to do these and these extracurriculars to prepare for this, for example. So these are like the few types of counselors. So now thinking about which one you should choose and why. Aryan, if you can go on to the next slide, that'd be good. Okay. So a few tips to consider as a student or a parent of a student that's entering or going through the college admissions process is a few key points that you should really consider is when should you start counseling, what grade, what time period, and whether you like the virtual or in-person counseling. If you feel that you learn more or you understand more in person, or you learn more or you understand more virtually, you should decide between that. And that way you can narrow down your search for counselors and what type of counseling is best for you. Do you need help in essay writing? Do you need help in creating college list? Or if it's both of them? And keeping all these items in mind are really important because college consulting is pretty expensive, and searching for a college counselor. So essentially you would be going through a lot of different counselors, and it's okay to like do a few trial sessions between multiple counselors to find the right fit for you. You just need to make sure that whatever counselor you choose is best for you and your student, and they will really help you in the future. And I guess one thing you should consider, or if you could go to the next slide, is what type of help do you expect from them? So essentially, when you do a college consulting, you generally would ask them to come up with a plan and a few checkpoints to monitor your students' progress. So whether this would be in summer activities, they would help you gain research internships, or maybe help you with your summer activities, plan out your extracurriculars. And on top of that, they would expect, or like you would expect them to have multiple workshops, either monthly or weekly, doesn't really matter, but whatever workshops you have, you go through them, gain advice, and this would be mainly like towards the general, I would say the general person, instead of like a one-on-one session, so you can gain advice from different points of view. And I think what you would expect from these college counselors would be a way to brainstorm your essay writing and come up with edits. So for example, they would ask you, like they would read through your whole essay, and maybe you didn't phrase some thing right, or maybe your point of view was wrong. They would probably tell you about it. They'd probably tell you about it and why you should change it, or what the benefits are to changing it, and maybe how you can change it. So these are a few key points you should consider as well. And essentially, college consulting, many people that take it, they don't know what exactly goes on in the admissions process. And so they should be able to answer your questions. Whatever questions you may have, they should be able to answer them in a proper manner. So that's one thing you should also consider. And one thing you should also think about is you don't have to, the first consulting company you do, you don't have to just stick to that one. It's, from my own opinion, I think you should trial multiple different consulting companies, have a few sessions with them, see which one is the right fit for you or your student, and which one seems to work the best. And from all that, we can narrow down your search and find the exact counselor that works for you. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for consulting. So a few topics that we'll be covering over in the college admissions section is, what do colleges really look into your application? And then there's a quote from UC Santa Cruz on admissions process. So we'll talk about that quote really quickly. Then CMU or Carnegie Mellon University and their thoughts on the admissions process. And then we'll talk about a little bit more about the college application process and how to do it, and like steps to go through. And then following that would be life of a file. So explaining exactly what goes on in an admission officer's mind. And then would be college campus visits or college tours. So we'll go through that. After I finish the end of the slideshow, or like the end of the slide, I'll wait for a few seconds and ask if anyone has any questions. And you can feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. And then if there are no questions, we'll move on from there. Okay. All right, next slide, please. Okay. What are colleges really looking for? So a few things that they think about in their admissions process is, what is your academic rigor? How well are your courses? How many, like, what's your GPA? Like they look at your weighted and your non-weighted GPA. They consider what courses were available for you, and how many of those do you choose to take, and how many of you did you choose to opt out. They also look at your standardized testing. So this is for outside of UCs. They look at your standardized testing, your PSAT score, for your national merit, your SAT or ACT score, and essentially they look at your personal qualities. So a few things that you apply when you apply for college, you'd have a coalition, or like some sort of platform where you would send your supplementals or your essays, and you would have a recommendation letter. So not all colleges ask for recommendation letters, but most do. And essentially, your recommendation letter has to be from some sort of teacher or a person you've worked with. So most colleges accept like a recommendation letter from your teacher. So for example, your chemistry teacher, you felt that she really knows you the best, you'd ask them for a recommendation letter to write to a particular college. So what this is basically you use that recommendation letter and the colleges read that, or like the admission officer reads that recommendation letter, and they try to find out your personalities, what type of person you are in class, in a classroom setting, how well you work with others, are you a good teammate, how do you solve problems, what your personal traits are. And then there's your essays or your supplementals. And essentially for supplementals, what happens is colleges give you a particular prompt and a word limit. So you have to create a small short essay out of it. So when we say essays, most of the times is basically just like 100 to 200 words or 250 words is like the word limit. And you have to create basically a wording or an essay from that, which answers that question or which answers that prompt. And what the intention for this is to understand what your thought process is when you look at that question and how you answer it. So for admission officers, they can really understand what type of a person you really are by looking at your essays and your recommendation letters. So this is a really big thing in the college admissions process. And overall, when they look at all these things together, they try to look if you're a good fit for your college. If you're admitted into the college, will you work well with others? Will you succeed as a student? Will you learn? And I would say, will you like seize the opportunities that are given to you? If you are, then you seem to be a good fit and you can move on from there. So that's what we'll be talking about in the college life of a file. More on that
in a bit.
Okay. So the next slide is basically about UC Santa Cruz and their thoughts on admissions. So essentially, when freshman applicants are evaluated, it's basically a comprehensive review process. So they go through a bunch of different process that they have, and they try to see if you're the best fit for their college. And essentially, admission is offered to those who, like it says on the slideshow, they demonstrate the strongest achievement within the context of their opportunities and have a potential to succeed and will contribute their skills, perspective, and passion to the community. So to break that down, whoever has the strongest willingness to gain like as much as knowledge as they can with the opportunities that are available to them, and they have the potential to put everything they want to succeed and learn more and apply their skills in the real world and like help the community. Those type of students, they usually like tend to accept in their college. And so the comprehensive review process is basically when multiple evaluators, they look at multiple different factors, and this is well beyond courses or grades, to evaluate like a applicant's academic achievements. And essentially they try to find the capacity of each student to demonstrate like how much they can contribute to the intellectual life of the campus and how each student can impact the UC Santa Cruz's campus as an alumni and as a staff or faculty or even a student, how together they can create a better environment for the UC Santa Cruz University itself.
And one thing I'd like to add is that since this is a UC, all UCs focus on like the 13 points of comprehensive review. It's like a list in which the factors that they consider are there. I'm pretty sure we talked about it yesterday, but we can go over that again. 13 points of comprehensive review. So you can find it on their site. And these are the factors they consider. These are the points. So I'll just put that in the chat.
Yeah.
Real quick. So this is only for UCs. It's UC specific. Private colleges may or may not look at some of these. I mean, most colleges look at the same thing, but they word it differently, or they look at some more things or some less things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll just read out the quote real quick. This is for Carnegie Mellon and their thoughts on application process. So it's January, which means Carnegie Mellon's Office of Admission is hard at work reviewing applications. We're privileged to get to know our applicants through their essays, recommendations, and personal statements. In order to develop a community that promotes an atmosphere of collaboration, innovation, and success, we review applicants holistically, considering applicants within the context of their experiences and interests, while also considering the goals of our institution. So essentially, let's break this down, this quote down as well. when you talk about we are privileged, let me annotate this real quick, to read through our applicants' essays, recommendations, and personal statements. So what they try to mean by this is they try to find out your personal traits, your qualities, and they try to know what exactly the applicant is like. So this can only be achieved through essays, the recommendation letters from teachers or whoever you've worked with in the past, and your personal statements like your supplementals and the prompts that they have given. So essentially, for now, there are only two ways to like get to know the student properly. It's just these three and your interview. So not everyone gets the opportunity to get interviewed, but I think it'd be best to, instead of talking about like all the different kinds of achievements that you have, like sure you can talk about them, but try to talk about how, like what type of person you are, and try to express why you really want to go to this college and what really inspires you to go to this college and all that. And also the next line is, in order to develop a community that promotes an atmosphere of collaboration, innovation, and success. So like I said, atmospheres of collaboration. So how well if a student can work well with others, and what type of impact can this one student bring to the campus of CMU, and how they can promote success and innovation in Carnegie Mellon University with all the research opportunities that they have. How can they seize their opportunities and come up with something unique and new and create impact on the world? And when they mean by review applications holistically, essentially meaning that they don't really compare a student to another. It's just you're compared by yourself, what type of applicant you are and what type of applicant could you have been. And essentially, like it says, context of the experiences, what opportunities were available to you, and how much of that did you try to seize. So that's essentially what Carnegie Mellon looks at in the applicants. So this is actually really important to understand. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add is that a holistic review is a review, not just looking at your academics, like looking at yourself through like, say, personal statements and letters and goals. So personal statements, essays, and letters of recommendation. So that's basically what it means, if anyone didn't get that.
Aryan, do you want to take over from here and explain the college admissions process more in depth?
Right. So what comprises of a college admissions process? Well, first of all, you have your recommendations, which are college tours, college lists, understanding terminology, scholar-specific questions, admissions-related questions, grants, and scholarships. So basically, by recommendations, we mean that these things are optional. So college tours. So college tours are like a good way to get to know the college you're interested in. If you take a tour and go to the campus, you can see what the environment is like, what the atmosphere is like. Will you be comfortable in a big school, in a big college, a small college, all that. So college tours basically they help you to get a feel of the school. Plus, I think that counts as demonstrated interest for the schools that do track that. Okay, so college list. This is one of the first things that many students do while starting their college applications process. You basically create a list of all colleges that you're interested in. So say I'm interested in computer science. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to like make a list of colleges that are good at computer science. So usually you make a college list with like 3 types of colleges. So the first ones are safety colleges, then you have your target colleges, and then you have your reach colleges. So your safety colleges are the colleges where your chances of admission is like the greatest. So that means that your SAT scores and your GPA is like by well I mean like very well above the average SAT scores and GPAs for that school. So for example, if we take a look at San Jose State University and look at its SAT scores, then it's, then it's 500 to 610, math 510 to 630. So the upper range is like 1240. So say you score like a 1400, then this makes San Jose State University a safety school for you. Like you're going to get in. I mean, you're very, very, very likely to get in. There wouldn't be any reason for them not to accept you. So now, if we look at target schools, so target schools are schools in which your SAT score is like in the 75th percentile of the SAT scores there. Like your stats make you like your stats are within the average stats for that school. So for example, if we look at UC San Diego SAT scores. So their top score is like a 1480. So say I have like a 1450. So that would still get me in the middle of the range because their least scores are like a 1370. So that would mean that I'm comfortably in the middle or maybe in the top like 60th percentile. So that means that this school is a target school for me. I will be competitive for this school, but I won't be too competitive. Like I'm in the middle stat range. The higher you are in like the stats range, the better it is. So say you have like a 1500, and that's very good. Now, one thing I like to add is that UCs don't really consider SAT scores anymore. So while compiling a list of colleges you're interested in, just don't count the SAT scores for the UCs. You'll just have to go with GPA. So go to GPA, then okay, wait, average GPA. Okay, yeah, so the average GPA was 4.09. So now we know that this school, now we know that this is weighted GPA because you can't have an unweighted GPA above a 4.0. So say my weighted GPA is about a 4.10 or a 3.9. So that means that I'm pretty competitive for this school. This school would be a target school for me. Now, a REACH school is a school in which your admission is kind of a long shot, like it's not that likely you'll be admitted. So for this year, GPA and SAT scores need to be in like the 25th percentile or below for the average applicant. So if you take a look at like Stanford SAT score. So yeah, so Stanford's is like the lowest score is like 1420, their highest score is like a 1570. So say I have like a 1430, that would make me comfortably bottom 25th percentile. So then that would mean that this is that Stanford University is like a REACH school for me. So you want to have like 3 or 4 types of schools for each type of school. So you need to want like 4 REACH colleges, 4 target colleges, and 4 safety colleges. So you just compile a list. And then one major thing you consider while making that list is that, do these colleges have a good program or major? So say I'm interested in computer science, and I also want to do like a business minor in college, like a CS major and a business minor. So what I'll do is that I'll take up some colleges that I know and I'll research some. And then based off that, I'll make my college list. And counselors can help you in making this, your school counselor and even your guidance counselor if you hire one from outside. Now, understanding terminologies. So by terminologies, I'm pretty sure what is meant by terminologies are like test blind, test optional, all that college related jargon. So you basically have to like get familiar with that. You need to like know it because you're going to face that a lot of times during the college admissions process. So yeah, just if you're not familiar with anything about any term about college related admission, like for example, one of them is like Greek life. So you must have heard like about Greek life, but you really don't know what it is. I don't know what Greek life is either. I've just heard about it in passing and I still haven't understood it. It's like it's a type of fraternity or sorority or something at like college. And I don't completely understand that, but I am getting like a vague idea. Yeah, so there's terminology you may not know, like stuff like this. And so it's better to like research that and get to know it. All right, college specific questions. Now, if you're really interested in a college, you could go to them and ask specific questions. So say if I go into a college's site and I want to do a CS major and a business minor, but I can't find any information if they offer those 2 programs at once. So I could like email their admissions officer, or I could just email the school themselves asking for information on that. And if I had some questions about the university itself, like something about its location or its building structure, anything like that, then I could just ask that. Now, for the colleges that do track demonstrated interest, this is a very good way to demonstrate that. Plus, many colleges require you to write a why this college essay. So asking college-specific questions will give you material to write for that essay, which is why that's very important. All right, so admissions-related questions. Again, this is for understanding the college's admission process better so you can make your application better. Grants and scholarships. Now, if you get a scholarship or a grant, that means like you've distinguished yourself from like the rest of the admit pool who maybe didn't get that. So that helps you stand out in the admissions process and it gives you an edge if the school's like extremely competitive, like say Harvard or Stanford or something like that.
I just want to add a few things. Grants and scholarships, colleges do like there's like a whole big process you fill out for scholarships and financial aid from colleges themselves, but scholarships can be awarded from colleges themselves or from outside events or sources. Like, high schools tend to offer scholarships. Just want to add to that. But we'll talk more about financial aid very, very soon.
Right. So it looks like we've gone over our session time. It's already 7:05. We're like 5 minutes over time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to stick around. But if not, thank you for attending today's session. We hope you have a nice evening.